Hi, my name is Leanna, and today is Friday, March 16th, and this is the lab exercise for week 2 histology. Today we'll be talking about the structure and function of epithelial, connective, muscle, and nervous tissue. So we'll start with epithelial tissue. It's the body's first line of protection. It's comprised of a sheet of cells that cover the exterior surfaces of the body. They also line certain internal cavities, such as the passageways to the airway and digestive system. They also line parts of the mouth and nose. The main function is to protect the body and its internal organs from the environment. So the tissue is highly cellular, without any extracellular material between them. The cells are also packed tightly together to form a barrier. Typically, they're non-vascular, but they do contain capillaries. So when damaged or dead cells need to be replaced, the outer layer sloughs off and exposes newer cells underneath. The 3 types of epithelial cells are squamous, cuboidal, and columnar epithelia. So squamous cells look like they're flat and thin. Endothelium, which is a type of squamous epithelial, line the vessels of the lymphatic and cardiovascular system. The lungs, or alveoli, segments of the kidney tubules, and lining of the capillaries also make up simple squamous cell epithelial. Cuboidal cells are boxy, so they're as wide as they are tall. They function to secrete and absorb molecules. So they make up some parts of the lining of the kidney tubules and also ducts of glands that secrete neurotransmitters. For example, the adrenal glands. Columnar epithelial is rectangular, so they're taller than they are wide, and they're used for absorption and secretion. So clia, for example, are brush-like cells that are found in the lungs and the fallopian tubes. These are columnar epithelials. In the lungs, they function to brush out foreign material that's inhaled during respirations. In the fallopian tubes, they move the ovum to an ideal location in the uterus for gestation. So next, we'll move on to connective tissue. Its main function is to bind cells and organs and support as cushions for the organs. They protect them from shifting during traumatic injuries, provide support and assistance during movements, stores and transport energy molecules, protect against infection, contribute also to temperature homeostasis. The 3 types of connective tissues are connective tissue, supportive tissue, and fluid tissue. So connective tissue has 2 different types, loose and dense. Loose connective tissue includes things like adipose tissue or fat tissue, areolar tissue, which fills spaces between the muscle fibers, kind of like a web, and reticular tissue, which is like a mesh of supportive frame for soft organs such as lymphatic tissue, the spleen, and the liver. These hold the organs together and the tissues in place. And in the case of adipose tissue, they isolate and store energy reserves. Dense connective tissue is rich in collagen fibers, and they can either be regular or irregular elastic. So, regular elastic, the fibers are oriented parallel to the ligaments and tendons. So these enhance tensile strength in one direction. Irregular elastics are fibers. The fibers are oriented in several different directions. This functions to give the tissue greater strength in all directions, but can be weak in going in one way. Cartilage and bone are supportive tissue. They provide structure and strength to the body. They also protect the soft tissue. So cartilage has chondrocytes, which can be hard and somewhat flexible. The ear, for example, parts of the ear anyway, is cartilage. You see how it retains its shape, but is still flexible with movement. Bones, on the other hand, are a type of supportive tissue that are harder. They are made of mineralized calciums, salts, collagen, and osteocytes. The inside tissue of the bones are also highly vascular. They're more spongy and less solid. Fluid tissue is the last type of connective tissue. They are blood and lymph. So they circulate watery type fluid that contains salts, nutrients, and dissolved proteins. So this is a complete liquid tissue with no supporting fibers. Muscle tissue is the next type that we'll discuss. And the three types of muscle tissue are skeletal, cardiac, and smooth. So skeletal muscles are voluntary. They respond to conscious stimulus. The cells are striated and appear to be long cylindrical fibers. The skeletal muscles are attached to the bones and entry points of the body, such as the mouth. Cardiac muscles is the second type, and they're involuntary, and it's only found in the heart, the cardiac. Each cell is striated and has a single nucleus that's attached to one another in a short, branched type fashion. Its primary function is to contract and relax, for the heart to beat, that lub-dub, and to pump blood through the rest of the body. Smooth muscle is responsible for involuntary movements. So this is part of that rest and digest kind of thing. It's responsible for peristalsis of the digestive tract and also artery constriction for regulation of blood flow. They look like short spindle type fibers and contain a single nucleus. Lastly, the last tissue we'll discuss today is nervous tissue. Nervous tissue functions to receive stimulus and respond by generating an electrical impulse or signal known as action potential. This action potential travels rapidly over great distances in the body. If you think about the nervous system, think of it like wires all over the body. They receive and generate messages and direct them where they need to go, whether to a different area of the body or to the brain for interpretation. Dendrites are the main cells of the nervous tissue. These are long cell bodies that branch out into different extensions. They receive chemical signals from other neurons, and such as neurotransmitters, and they have a long tail called an axon. These axons relay signals from the cell to other neurons, to muscles or glands. Many axons are wrapped in something called a melanin sheath. This melanin sheath is a lipid, so it's fat that is used as an insulator. These melanin sheaths actually work to speed up that action potential and its transmission. So other cells in the nervous system are neuralgia, which is more of a supportive role. So the two types of neuralgia is astrocytes, which, as the name suggests, is shaped like a star. They have many functions, and some of them include regulation of ion concentration in intracellular space, also uptake or breakdown of neurotransmitters, and they are responsible for the formation of the blood-brain barrier called the dura. The second type is allodendrocytes, which produce that melanin sheath in the brain and spinal cord, so the central nervous system. And then lastly is Schwann cells. Schwann cells produce that melanin sheath, but in the peripheral nervous system. So as the name suggests, central is part of the brain and spinal cord, peripheral is the rest of the nervous system. So that concludes a review of the function and structure of epithelial, connective, muscle, and nervous tissue.